Blindside me and kick me out of my house? Enjoy having your life ruined. Over a decade ago, I came home to find I was being moved out by my wife. We weren't in a great place, but I was blindsided. I was also served with a protection order that stated I could not come home without prior written permission. I had to go through my wife to see the kids, etc., and it was in effect for 90 days. I was devastated. A relative connected me with a bulldog of a lawyer. This lady was brilliant and no nonsense. She filed a rebuttal to the protection order, but told me these things take time and we were unlikely to see a judge before the 90 days were up. She was very clear that I must follow the court order to the letter. If there was any evidence otherwise, I'd be in an uphill battle if or when my wife renewed it. It only took one day before my now ex needed me to take the kids. I had crashed at a friend's house, so I had no place to take them. So we agreed I'd watch them at home. I waited a few blocks away while waiting for an email. Ex called me and I reminded her of the details of the order and that I wouldn't come until I had permission. This happened twice more that I waited down the street within the first week. So I told her I wouldn't leave where I was staying until I had the email. It was about 20 minutes away. I texted her to remind her. The very next day she didn't email. We were planning on me picking up the kids to take them to school since their school was only a few minutes from my work. However, because I had not received written permission, I ran out of time to drive to pick up the kids and then make it to their school and work. She called, furious that I wasn't there. I reminded her about the permission, and that I was out of time. She ended up being very late to work that day. She then wanted to write me blanket permission to come and go as needed, but my lawyer advised against it. Follow the order. The culmination of this was a few weeks later when she again forgot to send permission. Her boyfriend was staying over, but didn't have his car with him. They both had to get to work, and that was the day I learned that he was her direct supervisor. Ex had to call a friend from work to pick up kids and take them to school, and the friend found out. Of course it got out at their work. Within a week of that, the boyfriend was fired over their relationship and my ex was suspended. By this time, I had my own place, so the kids ended up staying with me most days. I later learned that the protection order was the boyfriend's idea. Ex was quite mad about it as it turned into evidence that I wasn't a threat to her or the family, and the judge was quite harsh with her over it when we settled for support and parenting time. She called it intentional and harmful parental alienation. I think my children are effing. I hope their little baby together doesn't turn out with 6 fingers. I have a bit of a blended family. I married my beautiful wife, Portia, about 14 years ago after my late wife passed away, leaving me with 3 kids alone. She came with 2 of her own in tow. They were all very young, the youngest 2 being around 2 years old. I thought we found a perfect family for our kids after they lost someone very important to them. As our youngest 2 children were too young to remember, I always raised them with the assumption that they were biological siblings. They didn't need to know the horrible truth that both of their parents had passed away. I should have also told them how disgusting it is to touch your literal sister. They were always extremely close, treating each other like fraternal twins. They acted like they could hear each other's thoughts, they would speak to each other with some weird hidden language. To be honest, they freaked the hell out of me. Every day I would wake up thinking they would start doing backbends and chasing after me and my wife with weapons. As they got older, their attachment to each other got worse and worse. My wife and I tried to put them through therapy, but they would just fight us off and sit quietly the whole session. Then, one day it just stopped. They didn't talk all the time, they made friends outside of each other, and they acted like normal kids. I thought my life was finally simple. That was when I started hearing little squeaking at night. I ignored it every time, hoping it was my kid just jumping around in their bed. But when I tell you it was loud, the whole house could hear it. One night, I had enough and went to tell whoever it was to quiet it down. What I saw scarred me for life. When I opened my son's door, I saw 2 filled latexes on the floor and a third being used as my youngest son plowed into my daughter. I screamed at them instantly and they told me to get out because he had to finish. What do you mean finish? I separated them instantly and nearly threw them to the floor. I made them put on some clothes because I didn't want to see their miniature as hell private parts anymore and told them to meet me in the living room right away. I made them sit down and explain why the hell they were doing this. They told me that they were meant to be together, that only they could understand each other in the world because they shared the womb. I don't know how to tell them that they aren't even related. They proudly told me that my daughter is now pregnant, and they were hoping to make a whole family together. I nearly smacked them across the room. My wife and I sent my son to his grandmother's house while we try to get my daughter a baby garbage because I refused to have her walk around with her soul brother's baby.
My boyfriend said I'm too fat to put liquid kids in. My boyfriend said he doesn't want to have intimacy with me anymore. My boyfriend and I have been together for 3 years. We met because I am friends with her sister and we became close over time since we worked together. Then she introduced me to her brother and I asked him out. I thought he was fine, until a week ago he told me that he no longer wanted to have intimacy with me. He said he loves me but he doesn't want intimacy anymore. I asked him the reason and he mentioned that he is not attracted to me intimately or physically, just emotionally and lovingly. I asked him what about my appearance does he not like? He said he didn't like how big my rolls were getting and he hated having to push back stomach to go inside of me. I must say that my appearance really is not the best. I am fat, around 165 pounds and I am 5 feet 4 inches. I have polycystic ovary syndrome and insulin resistance so it is really difficult for me to lose weight. I also have a lot of hair on my leg area and facial area on my chin. I always try to shave, and I really diet and exercise but I can't lose weight. He, on the other hand, likes to take care of his body, goes to the gym and also eats healthy. What he said really hurts me. He doesn't find me attractive. and it makes me doubt too much, in the first place because I don't understand why he agreed to go out with me. Did he do it out of pity? Why doesn't he break up with me? Why did he wait 3 years to tell me he doesn't like me like that? Besides, does he want to sleep with other girls? He has a pretty high libido, and when we had intimacy he really enjoyed it or something? Or did he just have intimacy with me out of obligation until he couldn't stand it anymore? He also makes me ashamed of myself. I can't tell anyone, I really feel that is embarrassing. I want to clarify a few points. Intimacy really isn't that important to me. I think what hurt me was the fact that I thought I wasn't attractive to my boyfriend. If my boyfriend, now ex, was asexual, I would have gladly supported him. As I said, intimacy is indifferent to me. In fact, almost every time we had intimacy, my ex-boyfriend was the one who initiated it. In the morning, I asked my boyfriend if we could talk, he agreed. I asked him what he meant about him not wanting to have intimacy. Whether he was just with me or in general. At first he was very hesitant to answer, but he ended up saying that he doesn't want to have intimacy with me. I asked a lot of questions, like, if you don't want to have intimacy with me, how are you going to satisfy yourself? He told me that he was hoping to open the relationship or something, that telling me that he didn't find me attractive was a roundabout way to tell me to open our relationship, according to a friend of his. I'm not interested in that kind of thing. I really always thought that to have an open relationship it's better to be single. So I simply told him that I was sorry but that unfortunately I don't share the same ideals as him and that it was better to break up. We don't live together, but I spent most nights at his house. After talking I simply went to work. He has been sending me messages that he wants to talk, that I have to think carefully because I am throwing 3 years away, that my good friendship with his sister is going to go down the drain if we break up. When I didn't answer him, he started insulting me, saying things like I don't think you'll find someone like me with your weight, I only went out with you out of pity and because my sister asked me to, oh. He also called me a fat B-word. I really believed I was the problem. I blocked him recently. I've been crying because despite everything he says hurts. Besides, I have many things in his house that I want to recover. My delusional husband gave me peanuts despite the fact I am allergic to them and refuses to apologize, so I cooked him an amazing meal with a special surprise. So my husband is one of those people who believes that the power of the mind is enough to combat anything. He has genuinely tried to tell me that instead of going to chemo, I should advise my grandma to read meditation books and really believe that she is not sick. That's the kind of person he is. He believes in exposure therapy even with things like allergies and truly thinks he can heal himself simply using the power of the mind whenever he is. He gets mad at me for going to the doctors when I'm sick, instead of meditating with him in order to get better. One thing that has been the main struggle with him is to get him to understand that exposure therapy will not heal my allergies. Specifically, my peanut allergy. I have been deathly allergic to peanuts all my life, and cannot eat them. Yet he claims I can, as apparently he has watched many videos and read many stories of people overcoming deathly peanut allergies with exposure therapy. I have always told him no. Well, yesterday he took it upon himself to prove me wrong. I came home from work and he surprised me with a batch of homemade cookies. I was excited, but asked why he made them since he is lactose intolerant. He said it was a surprise for me. I was excited and kissed him, but before I ate one I asked for the ingredients, and he stated they were just normal cookies. He then got me to smell one. I did, and I thought they smelled off, but didn't say anything. My husband proceeded to break off a tiny amount of a cookie. A minuscule amount, which I thought again was odd. He then almost seemed to inspect it, then gave it to me. I ate the tiny piece, and almost immediately I started to feel hot. I could feel myself break into a sweat and my throat starting to slowly swell. I told my husband something was wrong, and when he saw me start to double over onto a chair and grab my neck and chest he called the ambulance. He then used the EpiPen. There is a hospital near us, so thankfully they came quickly. I was discharged after a few hours and I was more or less okay. I asked my husband to explain himself and he started off by saying that I shouldn't get mad. He put peanuts into the cookie, trace amounts of them, to start my exposure therapy. He figured I would never agree to it myself, so he did it without my knowledge. I couldn't believe it. I yelled at him that I could have died, he could have unalived me, had my EpiPen not been on me who knows what would have happened. I called him irresponsible, stupid and childish. I told him he's lucky I'm not going to press charges. He begged me to forgive him but still said that he was sorry for what happened but not for what he did. I said I needed space and went upstairs. I locked the bedroom behind me and sat in silence crying for what felt like hours. I knew I was going to divorce him, but I wanted to get back at him too. I decided that for the next 24 hours, I'm going to act like everything was fine, and serve him an amazing meal. That was my revenge. I came out of the bedroom and said that I forgave him. That I had thought about and that I had been letting my peanut allergy control my life. That I ate trace amounts of peanuts and ended up surviving. I sweet-talked him into thinking it was all okay. The next night I made him dinner. I served some fantastic chicken and homemade wholemeal bread as well as pasta. I told him I wanted this dinner to celebrate our new start and my start of exposure therapy and opening myself up to the power of the mind. He started eating the pasta and the chicken immediately and we finished the meal roughly 30 minutes later. 15 minutes later he started complaining about his stomach being sore. That's when I told him, oh yeah, I lathered the chicken in buttermilk beforehand and the pasta was drenched in butter before I cooked it. I also put some cheese sauce into the preparations of the dish. I know you're lactose intolerant, but this is just exposure therapy. I did say I was willing to start doing it. He looked at me with a look of shock and horror. He called me a liar, and not even a minute later he ran upstairs. He stayed in the toilet creating a nuclear warhead, and as he was in there I packed clothes for a few nights. I then drove to my sister where I am currently staying. I have been here a few hours and my soon-to-be ex-husband is bombarding me with calls ever since I sent a text to him stating I wanted a divorce.
My sister ruined my credit, so I ruined her entire life. My selfish sister had always been the golden child of my family, so I'm happy I could be the one to finally ruin her once perfect life. She was a rainbow baby and my parents' miracle, so she was always spoiled and given special treatment when we were growing up. I am 21 and my sister is 18. After she was born, my parents gave me way less attention and started to spend all their time and money on her and would just ignore me. They bought her whatever she wanted, and if she wanted something of mine I had no choice but to give it to her no matter how hard I cried. Even when I was in high school, and I started to buy my own things, she would let herself into my room and use my stuff and sometimes break things. Even after she broke both my PlayStation controllers on the same exact day, my parents didn't punish her or pay me back even though I had bought my PlayStation with my own money. Ever since she was a child she always threw loud tantrums where she threw herself on the floor, broke things, and screamed at the top of her lungs until she got whatever it was that she wanted. My parents made me pay for my own phone bill and my own school and sports supplies all throughout high school because they spent all their extra money on my sister and whatever clothes or electronics she wanted. They buy her a new iPhone every year and I still use my phone from 4 years ago. I always knew my sister was a spoiled little brat, no future, but I didn't know just how evil she was until this month. I finally saved enough money to finally move out of my parents' house and get away from my toxic little sister. I've had it with her breaking and stealing my stuff and I couldn't wait to live on my own. Anyway, I started looking for apartments and it was through this process that I found out my credit score was in the effing 200s, despite me never opening a line of credit in my entire life. If you don't know anything about credit scores, that is a dog's T score, and it meant I wasn't going to be able to move out anytime soon. I went to the bank and it was there where I discovered that my little sister had opened multiple credit cards in my name. She had maxed out every card she opened up and hidden all the credit bills that had been coming in the mail for me. I had never been so unbelievably angry in my life. I came home and showed my parents proof of what she had done. I wasn't even surprised when they defended her and said she was just a kid and probably didn't understand what she was doing. I had enough of them and I confronted my sister. I called her a useless, selfish bitch and I told her that she was going to pay for all this. I told her that she was finally going to learn about the real world and that I didn't care if she was my family. She was a legal adult now and I was going to sue her off. My sister thought I was bluffing. She laughed in my face and said that my money was her money because I was her family and that's what family is for. I left the house for a couple of days and stayed with a friend. I talked to a lawyer and had my sister served with court papers. I shut off my phone when my parents started blowing it up after my sister was served. I went home the other day to pack some more things and my sister was red in the face, crying and begging me to drop the case against her. She threw herself on the floor and everything despite her literally being a legal adult. She was kicking my door as I packed and screamed at me that I couldn't do this to her and that she didn't deserve it. She said she would be ruined before she even graduated high school, and this time I laughed in her face. My parents also begged me not to sue her. Again they said she was just a kid. I told them that they hadn't cared about me at all when I was just a kid, so why the hell should I care about my sister? I'm suing her for every last penny that she stole from me, and then I'm never speaking to my family until the day I die. Update: it's been a long time since I made my first post, and things have only gotten more chaotic and depressing since I first found out my sister had completely destroyed my credit. I had been trying to move out on my own when I found out that my sister had maxed out a bunch of credit cards in my name and tanked my credit before I even had a chance to use it in my own life. A lot of people were completely correct and guessed that my parents had given her my social security number, and that's how she was able to open all of the credit cards without my permission. I still have no idea why they gave her my social security number. Part of me thinks that maybe they were all in on it together and that they shared the money that they got from the credit cards. I honestly didn't even care and I didn't even view those people as my family, just criminals who tried to ruin my life for their own selfish reasons. That's why I didn't feel bad at all when I decided to serve my sister with court papers when she was only 18. I would have never been able to repay the debts and raise my own credit, so suing her was my only real option. My entire family begged me to drop the case and insisted that they didn't have the money for court fees or to pay me back, but again I really just didn't care. They had never cared about me, so I was just returning the favor. Things got really bad after the case started and my parents would constantly contact me saying that my sister's mental health was declining the longer the case went on. This really didn't concern me or affect my feelings at all since my sister had been the sole reason for my own mental health decline the entire time I had been living with my family. I only really started to feel bad for her when my parents started telling me that she had started doing drugs to cope with the stress of the case. As much as I hated my little sister, I would have never wanted her to be dealing with serious substance abuse issues. My parents said that she had gotten really into taking pills and just spent all of her time conked out on Xanax. My mom called me on the phone one day crying saying that this was all my fault and that if I never took her to court then she would have never started doing drugs. This honestly was a really upsetting call and I cried afterward too. Just hearing my mom blame me for my sister's problems made me regret everything that I had done, even if my sister was in the wrong. I thought I couldn't feel any worse until my dad called me a couple weeks later and said that my sister had overdosed and that they were with her in the hospital while she was recovering. They said that they had come home and found her unresponsive on the floor, covered in her own puke. They rushed her to the emergency room just in time to save her life. As soon as I heard this, I knew that I needed to visit her in the hospital. At the end of the day, she was my little sister and it was breaking my heart to hear that she was going through this. But when I got to the hospital, my parents freaked out on me and told me to leave. They even went as far as to have hospital security escort me out. Now I'm sitting in my car outside the hospital because, at the end of the day, I just want to be close to my sister while she goes through this. Now I feel that I should have never done this to my family and I wish I could just take it all back. My wife has been severely grief-stricken for 5 years and refuses to do anything about it. She makes our life hell. My wife's mother passed away 5 years ago from lung cancer. It was not a peaceful or easy death. Our lives understandably went on pause after the diagnosis and we both spent a lot of time off work helping care for her mother. My wife had a pretty typical showing of grief at the time, cycling through different stages. Same with our 3 kids. After she passed, however, my wife got really bad. I totally understand this. I can't say I know exactly what she went through, because I haven't had a parent die, but I understand how devastated she was. For months after, she could barely function. I gently took over pretty much all the responsibilities in the household and with the kids. She had been attending grief counseling since the diagnosis and continued after the death. None of this is the problem. I endeavored to be as supportive as possible. She cried on my shoulder every night for months and I just thought this was the worst of for better or worse. The problem is that after 5 years, she does not seem any better or more functional. She stopped grief counseling about 4 years ago and refused to go again, stating it would not help her and that nothing could. About a month before any major holiday, she will have a major downturn. In bed half the day, crying all day, does not want to interact with the family, does not have the energy to do anything around the house. This will go on every single day until about a week after the holiday ends. Every holiday is intense grief, just as much now as it was 5 years ago. October, November, December, and January every year are particularly bad. I am essentially without my wife, and am a single parent to my 3 kids. Altogether, she is completely incapacitated by grief for about 6 months out of the year, and has been the past 5 years. When I say incapacitated, I mean incapacitated. When she is in the depths of her grief, she is completely incapable of intimacy with me or the kids. There is no cuddling, spending time with us, going on family outings. I don't have intimacy for half the year. I've stopped asking her if she wants to talk about it because she can't get any words out between sobs if she tries. What hurts the most is that the kids have stopped asking or being concerned. If they see their mom in bed when they get home, they just go about their day and might casually mention, "Oh, mom is sad today," if they're siblings, or I ask where she is. They don't really seek affection with her anymore, because they rarely get anything more than tears. I've discussed this with therapists, my parents, friends, etc., and I know all the rebuttals people have for this, so let me preempt them. She is unwilling to go back to therapy for grief counseling or to see a doctor for depression. Yes, I know she's severely depressed. I can't force her to go to the doctor. I've tried so much. Yes, it really is just as intense as it was 5 years ago. No, I never tell her to get over it or blow her off. On my worst days I just give space and leave her be. Most days I try to offer her some comfort. If you want to judge me for leaving her alone, whatever, but know that I feel like I essentially have caretaker fatigue at this point. No, she does not have a history of depression, but she does have ADHD. Don't know if that's relevant. I feel like my wife died when her mom died. I would do anything to get her back, even a small piece of her, but she doesn't seem willing or able to move on past her mom's death. I feel awful for considering a divorce, but I don't know what else to do. My transphobic mother refuses to accept my brother's transition, so we're getting her fired. So the day after I posted, my mother left for work and my brother and I left school early. We packed our bags while she was at work. We wrote her huge handwritten note stating that we are moving into my brother's best friend's house for the time being, and since she does not know where he lives, she will not be seeing us. We left her my phone number so she can contact us if she wants to make amends or apologize. In the note we stated that unless she calls me to let me know that she accepts my brother and is sorry for the years of abuse, we will be going no contact with her. We then emailed my mother's boss the pictures of my face after her assault, as well as the audio recordings of her outbursts. We stated in this email that we have absolutely no interest to press charges, that we do not deem ourselves in danger as we are old enough to defend ourselves if necessary, but that we strongly believe that she is a danger to children. We also informed him that about a year ago, she was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, something we know for a fact she has not mentioned at work. We also stated that we cannot in good faith allow a woman who is capable of doing that to her own son, work with vulnerable children. There was more to the email, but that was the gist of it. We sent the email at around 4 p.m. Our mother usually ends work at 6, so we had plenty of time to go to brother's best friend's house. It was hard for us to do, leaving the house knowing this will be a completely different chapter in our life. No matter how abusive our mother may have been, we were raised in this home, and leaving it was hard. My brother's best friend and his family welcomed us with open arms, and I could not be more thankful to them. I tried my best to express this gratitude and they said they're just doing what they can. They live about a 40-minute bus journey away too, so there is no way to accidentally run into my mother. Speaking of my mother, I got a call at around 8 p.m., almost a full hour later than I was expecting to. I picked up the phone and expected to be yelled and screamed at, and unfortunately I was correct. My mother called me a snake, a serpent, and an evil man who would screw over his own mother this way. Indeed, she had gotten fired. I expected to feel relief, but I did not. She yelled at me over and over, condemning me to hell, to damnation, saying that I better come back. Cussing me out for getting her fired. Quite ironic for a religious woman to use as many swear words as she did. Anyway, I told her she should be lucky we did not press charges on her, that she is a danger to children and that she does not deserve the title of mother. I hung up on her and told her that just like the note states, she can either call us to apologize and accept my brother, or not call us at all and accept that we are no longer part of her life.
My delusional husband gave me peanuts despite the fact I am allergic to them and refuses to apologize, so I cooked him an amazing meal with a special surprise. It has been a few months and my husband and I are currently going through divorce proceedings. I know I'm never going to take him back no matter how hard he tries to convince me. And convince me he has tried. He has texted me a lot, begged a lot, apologized a lot, and showed up at my sister's doorstep a lot. Hell, he sometimes even sends me money or gifts into my workplace randomly as a sign for me to forgive him. I have talked to my sister and she states that this is love bombing, a tactic gaslighters use in order to get you to forgive their actions. My sister is a very smart woman and has an eye for these things. Gaining her perspective really helped. There was a point that I was actually considering forgiving him, but she was the one who convinced me that this type of behavior isn't normal. When I asked for space, he completely disregarded my wants and showed up to my sister's house the next day. I have also spoken to my sister's husband and he says the same thing. One very, very crazy thing that has happened, however, is that my husband has come up with a unique method of winning me back. You see, I still don't have social media blocked as I don't see the need to. On said social media, he has started documenting a journey of him overcoming being lactose intolerant. He records himself, every single day without fail, consuming small amounts of dairy while preaching to whoever watches that the power of the mind is special and using it he will overcome being lactose intolerant. This is usually then followed by a pic of him in the bathroom talking about how hard the dairy hit him. He does this every day and brags about the results each day, claiming he is getting better and better at tolerating dairy. Honestly, I keep up with it for 3 reasons. For pure entertainment. To see how far he will go to win me back. And to remind myself that he is insane and to never ever go back to him no matter what he does.